but I'm going to do something. I want to engage with the tenants and see what they want and kind of do a democracy, if you will. Like, hey, if the tenants want something, like if all 7 tenants want something, if it's something within my power and reasonable, then I'm going to do it. I want to try to create a good experience, so a good product, so they stay. Because turnover, man, that's going to kill you, and I don't want to deal with that, every month, or every week or whatever the case is. So,
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another wonderful interview on real estate deals. Today, I have my new friend, Jarrod Oschenbein. He is a fellow Sub 2 student, Pace Morby's Sub 2 group, and he is my new battle buddy. So that's really exciting. And he is currently sitting in his first deal, his first purchased property in Arizona. He's going to share that with us today. Yeah, but first, let's learn a little bit about Jarrod. Jarrod, you told me you recently left your W-2 job, but let's take it even further back than that. How did you first get interested in real estate investing?
I was sort of always tangentially interested just because a lot of people buy and sell, 3, 4 houses in their lifetime. Well, I moved around a lot. I bought and sold my own personal properties a lot and made a pretty decent amount of money doing it, mainly because I was just lucky, to be honest. Like I bought a house in Bethany, and it was an upscale neighborhood, an Intel uh, area in Oregon. And I just thought, oh, it'd be cool to buy a house there. And then I didn't really fit in because I was single and not married and things. So I ended up selling the house 1 year and 1 day for obvious tax reasons and made a pretty good chunk of money. Well, that was in 2006, late 2006. I sold right before the crash. And so I got lucky, right?
Wow.
And so, yeah, and I also had a really good accountant. John Moon, he's passed away, but he was with Northwest Tax Services, and that guy was a ninja. And so taxes was after I learned a lot from John Moon, taxes became a part of my I don't know, concerns, right, with finances. Prior to that, I was just like, oh, make money, spend money, young and dumb. But that's how I sort of got interested in because I made some money on it, but I never acted on it. And then after the 2008, sort of fizzled down to 10, I was going to actually get in there and do stuff. And then being at Intel for 23 years, I just sort of focused more on the job and I never actually jumped into it. And so I pay attention to things that are going on. And right now we're kind of in some would arguably say a recession, depending on who you talk to. So I thought, oh man, it's a good time to get back in there and actually do something about it. But at the same time, you might ask this question in the future, but taxes, like I said, was on my mind. And that's how I got started and actually going forward with real estate was because of taxes. I read the book Tax Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, and that book blew my mind and changed my life. So just so everybody knows, 5 months ago, I wasn't in real estate at all. And then I read that book and I wasn't actually looking to get into real estate. I was looking to save some money on taxes. And then that whole book was talking about real estate, real estate, real estate, and how things, write-offs and this and that. I was like, oh man. So I did some more research, and that's where I found PACE. And I know I'm going down. You're probably going to ask some questions, but I'm going down the rabbit hole here. But I got into Gator, and then when Gator paid for itself, and then I made enough with Gator. So for those that don't know, Gator is a lending. It's a lending portion of Pace Morby's trainings. And the teachings there are basically taking chunks out of transactional real estate deals. So I got into that for a few reasons. One, it was cheaper than the sub two, to be honest. And I was trying to learn, and I thought, well, if I can get in there and learn, and with the Gator lending, you could see both sides. You could see the buyers, the sellers, and you kind of, understand what's going on. So that's what I did. And then when I made enough doing the Gator to pay for the sub two, then I joined sub two. So essentially, I'm free rolling, right? So I don't have any of my own money out of pocket yet.
Well, you made enough in Gators, you pay for sub two.
Yeah, I made enough in Gator to pay for Gator itself, and then made enough to pay for sub two. And then for those that are listening, subject two is a way of acquiring properties through basically taking over the mortgage. And there's a creative way to do that. So I decided to join that as well. And I'm brand new. I'm about a month in on the sub two side. So
Yes. So we'll dive into that. And yeah, you covered it pretty well about how you got into real estate, what made you finally get into real estate as an investor. But before that, you were already in it, but you were in it more, sounds like more like for personal residences, and
Yeah,
you happened to make some money along the way and had some really good timing in doing that.
Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would do it again, but I would keep the houses. I would buy the house, live in it for a year, and then, rinse and repeat. But I wasn't smart enough to do that. So anyway, better late than never, right?
So tell us now that we have the background, tell us where you're sitting now and what got you into this house that you're doing the deal with.
Yeah, so I live in Oregon, and I'm currently in Arizona, and the reason I'm here is I was looking for a house to buy to do a co-living model, and so some people have heard of PadSplits, others have heard of like a youth hostel in Europe, that type of thing. But this is a house that essentially I took the common areas, the dining room, the living room, and turned those into bedrooms. And then since I'm in Arizona, I know in Florida they call it the Florida room, but in Arizona they call it the Arizona room. Essentially, all that is a covered porch, right? So the porch, which was already brick walled, and it was a pretty substantial dwelling or structure as it was. I just removed the sliding glass doors, put in walls, and then split the Arizona room for two more rooms. I have a YouTube channel and Instagram and all that stuff where I've got videos of the status of before and after. I'm sitting in the house right now, and they're doing construction in the other room as we speak. So, but yeah, that's the idea. So this was a four-bedroom, two bath, and now it's an eight-bedroom, two bath. And one of the rooms I'm going to occupy. And I do realize that two bathrooms for effectively seven people is a lot, but I'm going to go forward with it and see how it goes, and see what happens. So
So you're planning to actually occupy one of the rooms.
I am sort of, I mean, yes. So I I bought the house as a primary residence, right? So part of the legal portion is that you have to live in the house. So I'm living in the house, but I will travel back and forth to Oregon. So
Aha. Okay. Well, that's clever because I'm familiar with people buying duplexes, people buying triplexes, even fourplexes, quadplexes. By the way, for quadplex, same thing as fourplex, and getting like FHA financing, for example, where they say you've got to live in it. One of the units has to be owner occupied for us to give you this really nice loan that we're going to give you, where it's like 3.5% down, and you can actually use 75% of the rents to qualify towards the income that you would need for the property and all that stuff. Um, do agencies like FHA lend on properties like this, or how are you going about financing this?
well, I actually the reason I did this instead of waiting for a creative deal was I'm a veteran Army vet, and they changed the entitlement about I think it was about 2 years ago. It used to be around 480,000 or something like that for your entitlement to buy a home, and then they bumped that up somewhere along the line to 750. And my house in Oregon, I think we owe it's like almost $1 million home. We owe like 450,000 left on it or something like that. And so we had 302,000 left of our entitlement. This house I bought is 450,000, but 300,000 of it was zero down. So the remaining 150,000, I just had to put 25% down on. And so it worked out to be about 42 grand all said and done for everything, to get the house. So that's what I did. And I am working towards a creative deal next, but I just joined Sub 2, so I just finished the training and I'm involved with the Closers Cafe, and I'm learning as I go. So
Well, creative is relative. I mean, it's really putting together the elements to get a deal done, regardless whether you're using traditional financing or and tapping into different people in your network or whatever. I mean, I think getting creative is a lot more than just buying something subject to the existing mortgage staying in place, or and then Pace teaches that too. But there's a number of creative financing options, but just being creative to put together a deal makes it creative.
there you go. I'll go with that.
That's my opinion, of course. Not official advice of any kind. I was wondering, could you share with people what are the benefits that military veterans have for getting financing with what are called VA loans?
Oh, it's pretty significant. I think anyway. Essentially, you can purchase a home with a VA, Veterans Administration backed you're still going through the normal loan process, but the government backs you on it essentially, and it's a zero down, so you don't have to put any money out of pocket for your the entitlement. Well, my entitlement, I already had 450,000 of it used up, so I couldn't use the full amount. But had I had the full entitlement, I could have got this house for zero down, and I could have paid, some of the closing costs and other things. I'm a little bit different in that I'm a disabled veteran. I smashed my wrist as a mechanic, and it's all jacked up. So there's that piece too, and that helps with some of the closing costs. So if you're a disabled vet, you get a little bit of a break on the closing costs. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's I remember that's the reason. I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit here because you asked that question. My Oregon home, I have a 225 on it. And the reason I have a 2.25% loan on it is because I refinanced twice. I think I originally had like a 375 or something, and then you have to wait, I think it's a year or something like that. And I have an awesome primary loan broker. The guy's name's Mohammed, and he's with One True Loan, and he's awesome. So I'm going to plug him because he's that good. And I've got other people that use him too, and he's awesome for primary loans. HELOCs, not so
Is
good.
that only
Not so good.
does he only help the people in the Oregon area or
Oh, he's nationwide. Yeah, he's
nationwide?
nationwide, and
Okay.
yeah. Now I will preface this. Now you're going to do all the work, but they're really good and they're cheap. And so, I mean, if you're willing to, you have to, when you do a loan, you have to do a lot of the work anyway, all that paperwork and everything. But they've got it all digital and you go online and you sign it all. And I've done it multiple times. In the last 5 years, I think I've refinanced three times. Well, the first one was the purchase and the other two were the refis, all with Mo. And the guy's awesome. But what I did was I was watching the rates when it was 375 and it got down to, I think, three refinanced again. I was like, my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Hey, for me, the closing cost, I think it was like $1,600 or something, so it was totally worth it." And then the rates were dropping again, and I was in constant contact with Mo, back and forth, back and forth. And he says, "Hey, man, I hit 225," and I was like, "Lock it in." So I got a 225 on the house, and now I'm really, really happy to have that. So
And that could save you how much over 20, 30
I
years?
should I should probably know that, but I don't. All I know it was good, and I'm like, I'm doing this.
But
My wife wants to keep the house, so.
point is, it could save you tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, yeah. Plus, I pay an extra payment every year, but I'm probably going to hold off on that now because, like you alluded to, I quit my W-2, so I have zero income coming in other than this house. And once I get this stabilized, and we'll figure out how it goes.
Do you want to share some more background on why you quit your W-2 and like what are your goals and how like where does that factor in? Because a lot of people want to do that, but don't feel comfortable to do that until they have a sufficient amount of income, or they're just wondering like different perspectives and hear different stories about people quitting their W-2 and how you might suggest that somebody else go about that.
So my path and everybody's situation is different. But first off, I took a buyout. I was at Intel for 23 years, and so it wasn't like I left and I don't have any income and I'm broke and I'm just trying to figure it out. I actually begged, and I quite literally begged. I told my director, I was like, "Hey, man, I need this. You need to approve this." And what was happening was they'd offered for the software developer. So I was an IT manager for the last 5 or 6 years, but at Intel for 23 as an IT geek. And the 2 years ago they moved the IT department underneath what is now IAGS, or this is Software Solutions Group, and they were targeting software developers because I believe their AIs. If you're a software developer right now, man, it's kind of rough because AI is, it's pretty awesome. So anyway, they were trying to get rid of, I believe, some of the software developers. And so because I was in the software group, I actually got the email that said, "Hey, if you would like to take a buyout, here's our options," right? Which was a week and a half for every year you were there, 4 weeks base pay, 9 weeks for what they call redeployment. And then for me, I also got paid my sabbatical. So it was an almost an entire year's worth of pay. It was 51 and a half weeks. So awesome, right? So I was like, "Man, you got to let me do this," because I had joined Gator and the Gator lending was going pretty well. And I could, if I wanted to, just do Gator and be fine and survive. If I did, but I'd always have to hunt for the next deal, but it'd be like just a flat line, right? I would never grow. I would grow in some capital, but not in quote unquote wealth with any real estate. So I wanted to get into real estate. actual owning property and having the FI, right, the financial independence that everybody talks about so much, and then rinse and repeat and grow. So I left Intel because well, the buyout, but also the Gator was going so well. I thought, man, this is my chance. If I could sit on the sidelines again and do the same thing I did before and then regret it, or go for it, right? So I just decided, and luckily my wife is so supportive. She's supportive because I have not in real estate, well, a little bit in real estate. The track record I have, I'm gonna, this is running along, I know, but I used to flip trailers on the side, and not because we needed the money, just because I like doing it, right? So I would buy a trailer, fix it up, and sell it. And I was doing that for like the last 15, 16 years. And the last one I did, I actually made $20,000 on it.
On
So
trailers.
on a trailer. Yeah. I bought it was a 36 foot. This is not real estate, but it's real estate that moves, put it that way. But there was a 36-foot gooseneck car hauler or drag race trailer or race trailer, whatever you want to call it. It had a 28-foot garage. And I bought it from a guy for 29,000. And the guy was just getting out of drag racing. He was an older guy. And I bought the trailer and asked him after the fact. I was like, why just sell it for so cheap? And he goes, well, I just listed it and you were the first one to call. And he was getting out of drag racing because he was an older guy, and his last drag race, everything sort of started coming in on him. His blood wasn't keeping up. So he's like, hey man, I'm out. He said he lifted off the throttle, and that was his last drag race. But I knew that trailer was worth more. That's what, like with real estate, what I'm trying to do here is trying to understand the market. In the trailer world, I understand the market. Like Forest River makes pretty good products. Weekend Warrior, crap, don't buy them. You know what I mean? They fall apart. So if you get to understand the market and you know
Never
the
even heard of
value, what
those, so I
oh
clearly don't
man.
understand the market.
Well, I'm older and I've bought and sold a lot of them over the last, 15, 20 years. And I got to understand the market. I knew what people were looking for. And as soon as I saw this thing, man, I was like, oh man, I gotta have it. And it was 4 hours away, drove down, bought it, listed it on the drive back, and I had it sold within 3 weeks. I sold it for 49,000. A lady and her husband drove out from Tillamook, and I knew it was worth. I listed it for that. I didn't think I was actually going to get it. They didn't even haggle with me. They just came up and bought it. I was like, wow. So yeah, 20 grand. It was pretty cool. So
That is a cool win. Not even a fix and flip, just a straight up flip.
yeah, it didn't need anything. It was beautiful. It was basically brand new. So
Wow. Well, a great
yeah,
find. You mentioned Gator a couple of times, so how about we take a little bit more of a detour and share how did you find people to lend to make chunks, or get a return on your money that you were lending out?
that was the networking. I'm pretty extroverted, let's say. And that took a couple months. Talking to other people, just networking, finding out who's borrowing. There's connectors out there that are looking for people to lend money, and then there's people out there that are looking to borrow money, and there's connectors that put the two together. So I have a few of those connector folks in my Rolodex. I know that most people probably don't know what that is, but in my contact list, let's put it that way. And so just working with different people, either through the connectors or directly with the borrowers, just by networking, talking to people, kind of like you and I, we're just talking, getting to know people, and people in real estate know people in real estate.
Very true. So good old fashioned networking. Sounds like some of the smart networking as well, just in terms of getting connected with connectors who know lots of people instead of just newer people. Or I'm sure you did some of that as well, but connecting with people who are already super connected. That's one of those key um, kind of cheat codes, so to speak. Not that you're actually cheating; it's just video game term. Anyway,
Hey, my football coach used to say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Just don't get caught on my football field. So
I haven't heard that one.
yeah,
No, it's the
Colin
wisest
McDaniels.
advice, but I get
Yeah,
what
that's true.
I get where he's going with that. I mean, yeah, hopefully you had a positive intention with that. Um,
Yeah,
with the deal that you're in now, again, you're sitting in the house. What were some of the hardships you went through in being able to buy that?
man, it was honestly, it was a nightmare. The banks are so, I guess, paranoid, and rightly so, with the economy and everything. I bought and sold a lot of houses, but nothing like this. I went traditional loan, VA loan, and the amount of paperwork and the double, triple checking and signing and wet signatures and all this stuff for people was more than I'd ever experienced in my life. And it was all done through technology. So those are some of the hardships. other was when we had the home inspection. This house showed signs of termites. And so they had to have, it was easy to do, but then the proof that it was inspected and mitigated, they didn't like it. And I had to get another person to come in, and it was kind of a nightmare. But luckily, Stephen Gomez, my realtor down here, he's awesome, by the way. If you're looking for a realtor in Arizona, I'm plugging all these people. It sounds like some kind of paid advertisement, but they were good. Those aren't hardships. He was actually really good. I got everything I wanted. But yeah, that was a sticking point. It didn't kill the deal, but it definitely delayed it. I was supposed to close on August 9th. I ended up closing on, well, then they said August 11th, and then it actually closed on August 14th because of those delays. And I was worried about the roof because this is a flat roof and it has kind of a, I don't know what they call it, a polymer or some sort of latex roof. And the inspector said, hey, they're going to care about that. Well, they didn't. They didn't care about that at all, which was weird. They cared about the flaking paint that was on the backside of the house that you can't even see. Um, so anyway, the seller um, decided to go ahead and fix all that stuff prior to close because originally they were just going to give me credits, but with the VA loan, they're like, no, it has to be fixed before the loan funds. So it's like, oh man, and I was remote, so we had to work it out back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, it all worked out, but it was up and down, and even getting the house, like I was trying to be aggressive with getting the deal, but I didn't want to lose the deal. I wanted it. So I ended up getting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 11,000 in concessions from the seller, but that's good, good enough for me. I wanted the house, so even if they didn't, I would have bought it. They didn't know that, but I was looking and looking and look. This is the third house we put offers in on, which I think is pretty quick. Usually, in the past, even my personal homes usually takes, 4, 5, 6 homes before get one, especially in a hot market. It's not hot right now, so that's probably why we got it. There's not a lot of buyers out there unless you're Pace Morby and you're out there buying everything in Maricopa County. So
Are you in Maricopa
I
County?
am, yeah.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I know we're supposed to have abundance mindset, but um, when you got Pace and all his crew out there gobbling up everything, it's tough to snag something. So
There
I
are
might,
a lot of students. Yeah.
yeah, I might start looking. Actually, I am looking in other markets, like believe it or not, Oklahoma. I know people don't talk about it, but
I've
Oklahoma, and
heard
then
good things about that market. Yeah.
yeah. So cheaper cost of entry and decent return. So I might do that. So
Yeah. And what was the reason you considered Maricopa County in Arizona?
so I I'm in Oregon, and Oregon doesn't have very landlord friendly laws, right? They're just not. And the property taxes are off the chart. For example, my house I pay something like 8,500 a year in property taxes. This house is 1,200, right? I mean, it's drastic
Wow.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Where I am, it's like 15,000 for like a normal house per
oh
year.
wow. Yeah, see it's
Yeah.
even worse there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that financial reasons, legal reasons, and tertiary reason was my family. I have family here. So my mom's here. She just had a stroke about 3 months ago, so that also played into, hey, I
Wow.
want to get down there and have a reason to be here. But I have family here too. My cousin's here, my niece is here. I grew up in Paradise Valley as a kid, in grade school, and then we left and went to Oregon. My dad had lupus, couldn't be in the sun. Arizona, not the place to be. Oregon, no sun, place to be. So he retired Army, and then he worked nights as a security guard. And mom's a hairdresser, so I'm not rich or anything. And then I went to school, yada yada, got a job with Intel, and 23 years, and just did the system. It was just doing what the society set up to do. And then I read a book, and then everything changed.
That can
So
happen. Any other
I'm not
hardships
sure
that
if,
you've gone through with that house and securing that and building it out?
yeah. Thank you for keeping me back on point. I do tend to ramble on.
All good.
No, actually, other than we got the loan, everything went fairly smooth. And the networking thing I mentioned before. So when I was down, this is my fourth time down here in the last 4 months. On average, I'm here every month. But I met Jeff Cusa from the Phoenix RIA and Kevin Cho. But Jeff and I don't know if he'll say this, but I hit it off with the guy. I like the guy a lot. And talking to him just on Messenger and, some phone calls here and there. I asked him who his contract, after we got the house, I asked him who his contractor was. And his response was, I have the guy for you. And if anybody knows Jeff, he's an awesome guy. And so when he said, hey, I have the guy for you, I want to do another plug here. Um, Wild West Services in Arizona, Maricopa County. John and Tammy. John is awesome. And listen to this. So he knew I was coming in. I just got in Wednesday night. He's a general contractor, right? Um, I get here. There's a blow up bed, a pump. There's water and drinks and all kinds of stuff in the fridge and snacks and stuff. I mean, who does that, man? The guy is just next level. Like that's above and beyond. And oh, and on top of that, the big thing is I was expecting. So they just started last week, and they said, "Hey, we're going to start with demo." And I thought, okay, cool. So I was coming in. I got in late Wednesday, and I walk in. Not only is it all framed in sheetrock, the doors on two of the rooms were hung. They're cruising. They told me they weren't going to be done till the first week in October, and that may be true, but from what I see, they're damn near done now. I mean, they textured and painted already. I'm like, wow, and I didn't even know they were coming in today.
Amazing.
So
And this
today's
is a
Saturday.
weekend for everyone who's listening or
Yeah,
watching this.
yeah. I was originally set up in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the contractor showed up, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got to move, right? So, anyways, I'm hiding out in the bedroom here. But yeah, the hardships were just mainly getting the house, and after that, I'm gonna knock on some wood here. It's been so far so good so far, anyway. So
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. And what kind of returns can you get with that co-living strategy compared to, let's say, if you were going to use Airbnb for a short-term rental strategy, or you were going to do a long-term rental strategy where you're getting traditional tenants into a regular house? Like if you kept the house the way it was and just did some minor improvements, and you're going to do this like traditional 12-month leases, like that strategy or an Airbnb strategy, like what are some of the reasons why you didn't go with those?
the Airbnb, it's not something I want to do. I'm trying to have passive income as passive as I can get it, and I just with Airbnbs and the way things are going with the market in the Airbnb space, and I just wasn't on my radar. Um, the long-term rental, I was actually originally when I was with my W-2 and I wasn't planning on leaving, I was looking at Chandler and Gilbert for more of an equity play and maybe a couple $100 a month, if that. But I couldn't make any of those houses work with the rates the way they are, and I'm sure others are experiencing the same thing. So I sort of switched gears for two reasons. One, couldn't make it work for, you know, breaking even came out twice. But also once I left my W-2, then my focus shifted to more cash flow. And I still have a equity play, but I'm going to use some other funds for that. I couldn't roll my 401k into a self-directed until 30 days, and that's September 15th. So those funds will be for more long-term 10-year plays. But my capital I have on hand now are going towards acquisitions that I can cash flow, and this was one of them. And so the reason I went with I was trying to focus, right? I was looking at all these different options and yada yada. Shiny object syndrome definitely had that. But I settled on co-living, but not the PadSplit co-living because they were because of the cash flow, right? You can cash flow like this house here conservatively will gross 7 grand, and it's actually more than that because there's 8 bedrooms. This is on paper. This is napkin work, and I don't know. Who knows? It might not work at all. But on paper it should be 7 grand gross. The mortgage is 2,900. So do the math. Even with like 1,500 in expenses, air conditioning in the summer and all that stuff, still you're going to cash flow right on paper. So we'll see. If this house was a long-term rental, it would have broke even, but I'm not looking to break even. I'm looking to generate some cash flow for the purposes of putting back into real estate as long as I can. I just want to do the traditional back into real estate and grow the portfolio, and this is number one. So it didn't work for me. The numbers didn't work other than doing the co-living, and it interested me too. I wanted to see what this world was like. So
Yeah, wow, that cash flow is so much better than just having a long-term tenant. And of course, with a long-term tenant, it's basically like one family, and if they decide to leave or they can't pay, then they go in default, or you just don't have those payments anymore, and you got to find a new tenant, and then you're servicing or you're holding that mortgage. In other words, you have to pay that mortgage for however long it takes to find a new tenant for them to move in and start paying that, right?
yep. This way, if I lose one, it's not the end of the world. I only need 4 rooms filled to cover the mortgage. So if I lose half, well, once I get up to full
Amazing.
capacity, yeah,
How how are you going to manage that? Because with PadSplit, they do the management for you and they take a cut. I think I don't know what it is, 10%, 15%, something like that.
it's 15, yeah.
15%. Okay. And with you, are you planning to manage it yourself because you're going to be living there part time, or how's it going to work?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here till it's stable, and then I'm managing it through Rent Ready as far as the software goes. It's a pretty good platform, I think. Granted, I've never done anything with renting out or any software, but from what I see, it's pretty good. I have it staged all ready to go. All the units are set up and the cost and all that. I have the lease agreements and all that too. But I'm going to try to learn between now and on end of October about the membership because I have traditional leases. PadSplit does what they call a membership, and they do a week by week payment. And I just think that's too much of a hassle for people, including for me. It's they do that because they're targeting the C class neighborhoods and people's financial status is a little um, rocky, and so they want to make sure people are paying week to week. I bought this house is in a B neighborhood, a little bit better, and I'm going to target it maybe a tiny step up above what PadSplit's doing. So, and there will be probably some college kids, so I'm going to have to try to figure out how to create a community with the
Hmm.
applicants that come in. I'd like to try to have as much harmony as I can in the household. Like, for example, I don't want to have um, like a fresh out of well, don't want to have a fresh out of high school kid anyway, but let's say I'm using this for the extreme example. So somebody who's brand new in college and then like, I don't know, a 60-year-old person that you know, they might not get along well in the household, right? I'm just trying to figure out what that is. And I'm learning as I go here. So again, I started 5 months ago and then a month ago I decided, or a month and a half, 2 months, I'm gonna buy a house. And what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be co-living, right? So I sort of jumped into this and I'm gonna learn as I go. Um,
You've
but
had some
I'm in my
mentoring
mind.
though. You've had some mentoring from other people doing co-living in the
Um,
community.
I have sort of. So Effie, everybody knows Effie on What the Effie on her YouTube channel, right? She's doing co-living as well. And she was gracious enough to spend 2 hours with me, which I thought was awesome. And then she introduced me to Sam Wiegert. And if you don't know who Sam is, he's got about 200 properties in North Carolina and he's doing co-living, been doing co-living for, I don't know, forever. He was on the Bigger Pockets, I think episode 560, if anybody wants to go listen to him. And he was on What the Effie here about a week or two ago also. So good guy, and he was talking about the sense of community, and he actually changed my mind. Originally, I was going to furnish all the rooms, and follow kind of PadSplit's model and go. And he's of the mind that if you want people to stay longer, let them bring their stuff, right? And I agree with that. So I'm going to furnish about four of the rooms and leave the other four unfurnished. Now, granted, one of them I'll be living in for a year. Um, but see how it goes. I'm just gonna feel it out, man. And if it works better that way, I'll migrate that way. Or if it works better with the furnished, I'll migrate that way. Or if I realize, hey, a certain type of tenant is working out better than the others, well, then I'm gonna go that way. I'm just gonna what did Bruce Lee say? Be like water. Just go like water. Be like water. So I'm gonna go do that.
Yes.
Um, hopefully it works. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing that this business model is one of the least talked about. PadSplit is making it more, um, a lot more popular, a lot more well known, but it's nowhere near like Airbnb where just everybody that's remember like back in the days, Xerox or Kleenex, these were brand names that everyone knew a certain business model by or certain product by. And Airbnb is like that for that sector of real estate, the short term rentals. Like almost nobody says Verbo when they say Airbnb. And
Right.
PadSplit is kind of becoming like that for co living, where they're converting the common living spaces into like mini, what do you call them, mini dormitories or mini living spaces for somebody to inhabit.
Yeah.
It almost is
Single
like
or
dorm living, isn't it? Sort of.
yeah. Common areas are used by everybody, and then you have your own room. So it's like a
So are there
single
still
room
common areas in
apartment.
the house?
Yeah, so the kitchen, this house had everything, man. The kitchen's huge. Um, they remodeled. So Open Door came in and did a quick fix and flip. Um, is what they did, but they did granite countertops, big too, and the dual vanities in both rooms, granite countertops. They did a nice little I don't know, upgrade to the house. And there's plenty of cabinet space, and I'm so lucky because there just happens to be eight um, cabinets for the bathroom situation as far as towels and whatnot. And the kitchen, same thing. It's perfect. It's almost like if I was to build it, this is what I would do. I mean, I got really lucky, and I also got lucky with the because I'm going to be paying utilities. This house has solar on it that's paid for, And in the summertime, I went and looked it up. It's about 29 to 30 kilowatt hours a day that it produces. So that'll help with the utility bill, especially with the AC, right? So being in Arizona, so I was pretty stoked about that. And it's got plenty of parking too. That was the number one concern for me, was
I was,
parking.
I was going
And
to ask about
yeah,
that because what are the zoning requirements for a house like that? I mean, this is something that I don't know if cities are that familiar with this model, and how can so many people live in a place and how can there be enough parking for them?
Glendale doesn't seem to care all that much. I'm not familiar with the other cities, but the house itself, I've got a huge backyard. It's an oversized lot. It's a massive lot, and it has RV parking, and so I can put 4 cars in the driveway, and it has a 2-car garage as well. But I could have 2 in the driveway, but then I got to worry about someone coming in and out, blah blah blah. But and it also has plenty of street parking all the way around, so I could probably park, I don't know, 15 cars if I wanted to. But obviously that would piss off the neighbors, so I don't want to do that.
You're going to have 8 potential, or I
Eight,
mean, you,
seven, me included. But
yeah, and any one of those people may have, or inhabitants may have more than one car. They could have maybe 2 cars, just depending on
maybe, but it's just for me, I'm doing single person,
single. You're offering a one
single
parking
room,
space.
one, yeah, one. And there's also bus stops not too far from here if somebody doesn't. So
So a couple, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or something, could they live in one of the rooms or no?
not the way I'm doing it, no. So I,
Okay,
I
so
thought
they would
about
have to
that.
have 2 rooms.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah. But I'm not going to try to target that for, I just don't want to have to. I'm a drama free kind of person, so
Yeah,
if I can get the less drama, the better. So that's another reason for PadSplit says anyway to remove. It's not just financial. There's some psychology behind removing the common areas. So common areas where people can congregate have potential for conflict. I went
it's
against the
true.
grain on this one. I didn't do a room. Well, for I didn't need another room, but I didn't do a room for the breakfast or nook or whatever they call it in the kitchen. The kitchen's huge, and there's enough room for a big 8-person table, and I'm going to do that, I think, and we're going to see how it goes. People say don't do it, yada yada, but I want to try this. I want to see what happens if I sort of embrace the community rather than push people away. In a way, right? Like I didn't want to have all these other places and have a couch and a TV where people can fight over TV and all that, but at least the place where people eat in the kitchen, that's a common area. And as long as they don't keep any personal items there to sort of dominate the space, I think I'm going to try it, see what happens.
Yeah, I can imagine that could go one way or the other, just depending on who you have in there. So I'll be very
Right.
curious to see how that goes 6 months from now. You mentioned another thing,
You
which
and me
is
both.
C class. Yeah, C class, B class. What does that mean? Different kinds
So
of
the C
neighborhoods.
class,
And how do you gauge what is a C class neighborhood or a B class
I
neighborhood?
I gauge it on crime, right? So if you go a couple miles south of this location, the crime, you can get on the little crime charts, right? And you can see where if they're red, that's bad, a lot of crime. And there's also different types of crime, like, murder or whatever, and then all the way down to petty theft, and they're color coded. And so this area, I think, was yellow. So it's not green. Green means it's just fantastic and there's unicorns and rainbows, like, Scottsdale or something, right? This isn't that. But it's relatively low crime for the area. If you say Glendale, most people don't say, "Oh, it's like this thriving metropolis or whatever." But the price point, no HOAs, that was another key thing. Like, Gilbert and Chandler, there's some areas with non-HOAs that would have worked, but largely HOAs and that. So I didn't want to deal with any of the HOA things. So that's what forced me into Glendale area. Um, but as far as I don't think I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
You mentioned you gauge that based on crime because I don't think there are
Oh, yeah,
truly
that's
standard
one.
definitions in the real estate industry about exactly what does C class mean, exactly what is B class and A
Right.
class. I've seen
The other, yeah.
various definitions of it. It's almost some people don't even quantify it. They just say, "Oh, that looks like a great neighborhood. That's an A class neighborhood."
Um,
So
Well, there's that too. I mean, I did drive the neighborhood. I judge on graffiti. Like if there's a lot of graffiti and then I don't want to invest there. And this neighborhood is actually really good. I could see signs of graffiti, but they'd covered it up. Have you ever heard of the broken window theory?
I've heard of broken window fallacy in economics, but that
So,
might be different.
oh, okay. Well, it's like, let's say you have a house and you have a broken window. the odds of somebody else vandalizing the house or doing something to it are higher. I don't know the percentage than if you
Uh,
just fixed the window and cleaned it up. And so I've been in neighborhoods where I was a pressure washer. I pressure wash fences and fight the graffiti, right? And here, that's what they've been doing. It looks like, and it looks like it's pretty stable. And so I like that. The other metric for me was medium income in a given area. There's an app I like called Reventure app.
oh, I love
Nick,
that. I love Nick.
yeah,
That's Nick Gurley,
yeah, yeah.
Gerli. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing a good job there. I don't agree with everything he says, but I like and he cites where he pulls the data from, and that's key for me. Like I don't, I want to get data from people that, aren't afraid to share where they got it from, right? If you're just citing all this stuff and blabbering on and where's that from? Oh, blah blah blah. So I like that. So I
Yeah.
used a lot of his tools. I paid for his $5 thing, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's
Um,
$5 a month
but
for,
yeah,
are
just
you
it,
paying
it's a
for his YouTube membership or the
yeah,
Reventure app
yeah, it's
itself?
membership.
Got it. Yeah.
It's free right now. I know he's going to
Yes.
charge for it soon, and 2.0 is coming out in like a month. So see how that goes.
Yeah. Very good data and very good insights from him. Um, I was one of his members, and then I paused. I may resume that because he is really insightful. Yeah, thanks for sharing those insights about what you're doing and the neighborhood and what you're planning to experiment with. Because ultimately, every business model came up because somebody experimented with it, and then when someone comes up with whatever they come up with, like PadSplit, someone like you is going to come and say, "Well, maybe some common areas are nice. Maybe I can have the 8-person table. Maybe that actually adds a nice communal feel." Versus it just being like dorms that people come back to at the end of the day, but
Right.
never have any interaction with each other because that sense of community can really create a stickiness factor. I was actually one of the sub two trainings where there was an interview with an asset manager, and she was saying that one of the big responsibilities of an asset manager is to create that communal feel so that people want to stay in a property because technically their job is it's very spreadsheet focused and very financial focused because whoever does the underwriting basically creates the business plan to buy the property. They have to make sure that actually those numbers that the underwriter came up with are actually going to play out in real life. And how do they stick as close to those numbers as possible? And one of the ways they do that is by actually having people stay longer. And so that community where people want to be and they want to stay there, that's a huge piece of it. So it's not just about like being super
Event,
cold with numbers. You're going to actually achieve your numbers by creating a place where people want to be.
right. So Sam Wiegert's doing something interesting. He's actually doing 1 year leases on the rent by room.
Oh,
I
I
don't
haven't
think
heard that.
yeah, yeah, that's what he's doing. I thought about doing I probably won't do that. I'll just get into the month to month type thing. But eventually I'd like to try something out here, which is get a community it all hinges on the people, right? The people have to get along and that harmony and that kind of thing. So that's going to be key, and we'll see how that goes. But the I would like to do something. I don't even know if this is legal. I'll figure it out. But have a year lease, but the first 30 days or maybe 2 months or something, have a clause where, hey, if it's not working out for you, cool, walk away, no big deal, blah blah blah. And then after that certain point, the lease would lock in, something like that. You know what I mean? To see if because I want people to be able to try it. If they don't like it, then hey, I don't want to hold them to it. Like I'm trying to create a good product, right? That type of thing.
That makes so much
So
sense.
people,
I don't know
yeah.
why that's not done more often. I don't know if
It's
there's, like you said,
probably because of money.
well, if you create a good offer, because I come from a marketing background, so if you create something where it's lower risk for people to try it because they think that this is a good product, but I just don't know if it's for me because they haven't lived there yet. I think it's a great thing to do as long as you can work it out legally and get all the contracts right and everything. If they have an ability to walk away, I think you're going to get more people interested in that. So I'd be very curious to hear about that as well because I just not sure why that's not more of a thing. I would imagine that once somebody's living in a place, the number of people that walk away from it, even if it's not exactly what they hoped it was, like all aspects, they probably are a lot more likely to just stay and like, it's not too bad.
Well, especially for the price that I'm charging, because essentially what I'm doing. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but the apartments in the area are anywhere between, 1,100 and 1,200 for single room or studios. But with those, you have first and last, and you have security deposit, right? Some people don't have the first and last and security deposit. Maybe they're um, you're not as well established or younger and they don't have that money saved up, that type of thing. So I might attract some of those uh, type of folks. But as long as the, background check, credit check, and all that stuff pans out, then I think we should be good to go. And like I said, I'm learning as I go. I don't know anything. I've never rented anything in my life, so I'm new to that too.
I mean, you're new to being a landlord.
Yeah, new to landlord. So my brother moved in with me, so I guess you could count that. I'm house hacking, if you will, my house in Oregon because my brother moved in with me, but we'll call it house hacking. It's a roommate.
So you've gone from not being a landlord to being a landlord for seven other people, potentially.
Yeah, gonna be interesting. And if I can't do it, which I think I can, then there's always PadSplit, right? Like I could
Yeah.
just, you know, go back to that as
Would
a fallout.
PadSplit, would your house qualify for PadSplit? I don't know what the requirements are.
I, I've set it up in such a way that if it didn't, it wouldn't be too hard to. They have some requirements like just mirrors and yes, it would qualify. So I largely modeled everything I did off of what they recommended, um, but just for that reason, so I can back out and go that route if I need to. And there's not a requirement for fans in the room, but I went ahead and added it to there's only one room without a ceiling fan, and it's the one I'm in, and I have a little floor fan here. I'm gonna alter it and put in a fan in this room too, just so a couple of reasons. One, I'm hoping that will help with the AC bill, and then also if at night they run that for noise, like creating noise, so that way, because if there's 8 people in a house, keeping the noise down, people trying to sleep at night, that sort of thing, might be a little rough. So just kind of a noise generator, if you will.
Yeah, white noise. Got
Mhm.
it. Yeah, the whole thing's going to be interesting. But so far, um, as far as you've come to this point without being able to rent it so far because you're still rehabbing it, getting it ready. But is
Yeah.
there anything that you would do differently than you did so far?
Um, I wouldn't. I think I know that sounds arrogant, but I don't know what I don't know. But so far, things are going the way I thought they would. And now, when the rubber meets the road, when I go live here, I'm planning on doing a Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist as my advertising engines, and I'll dig into that a little bit more. But I, I'm not the first in this neighborhood. 2 blocks up from me, there's a guy who's doing it. And he is doing PadSplit, and as a test, he went ahead and fired off some Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist ads. And within 2 days, he had 75 people hit him up. Now, whether or not those were valid candidates and also the timing was key there too. It was before college started. So keep that in mind. That's a skewed data point, skewed point in time. If I did it today, I don't think I'd have the same amount, right? But the point is there is demand for it. So we'll see,
We shall see. And you
yeah.
mentioned that you were also looking for some other deals. Like, what are you looking for now?
My buy box is a 3-2 or better, 2,000 square feet, no HOA, plenty of parking. That's the basics of it. And the layout of the house can come after. Like I got lucky with this house it's going to spoil me for future houses, I think, because the rooms lined up perfectly, and it's by design when they build the houses. But sometimes you have a room that has a vent that's not in a great location. If you're going to wall off that room and create a bedroom, then you have to figure out how to get the AC in there and all yada yada. For the 2 rooms that were in the house, the living room and the dining room, the vents were perfect. For the Arizona room, however, there was a mini split out there, but it was only on one half, and so we're putting in another one on the other side. So both rooms are going to have AC, independent AC in it, which is a concern for me for power usage. So I'm going to actually occupy one of those rooms, the one with the older mini. It's not that old. It's like 2-year old mini split. Just for it's also the smallest room. It's a 12 by 9, and it's a relatively small room to the house compared to the house. But also that mini split, I can control the power usage on it, obviously. So, and then that's a question people ask in a co-living house. How do you control the thermostat? Well, you get yourself a digital wirelessly controlled thermostat and lock it out. And for me, I'm going to keep it at 74. But I'm going to do something. I want to engage with the tenants and see what they want and kind of do a democracy, if you will. Like, hey, if the tenants want something, like if all 7 tenants want something, if it's something within my power and reasonable, then I'm going to do it. I want to try to create a good experience, so a good product, so they stay. Because turnover, man, that's going to kill you, and I don't want to deal with that, every month, or every week or whatever the case is. So
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. Was there anything else that you are looking for? Because and are you looking to do more of that same business model, or are you looking for other types of business models where you might do short-term rental or long-term rental, 12 months or longer or
I
whatever?
I think it's Gary Harper, or you've heard the focus, right? It's a focus on one, not career until successful, but one
One,
content or one
yeah,
course.
one
That's what it's
course.
one
Yeah.
course. Yeah, until successful. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm forcing myself to stay in this lane and rinse and repeat. So the co-living is where I'm going to stay until it burns me or I get burned out or something happens. Until I'm just going to keep going forward and getting better and better because that's what all the experts say. And for once in my life, I'm going to actually listen to somebody, at least on that part. I know they also say don't rent to college kids. I'm not opposed to renting to, especially post grad or maybe fourth year undergrad or something like that. Somebody's a little bit more mature. Um, and then worst case, I get the parents to sign the lease as well, right? So if that needs to happen, but I'm not opposed to that either. I'm just gonna go forward and figure it out. I'm brand new waters for me. So
Sounds like a great mindset, Jared. Thanks so much for
I
sharing
hope
all of
so.
that. Yeah, I definitely wish you huge success, and I'll be following along your journey because we are battle buddies, and I am going to um, just continue to learn myself because I've never done that strategy either. Jared, if somebody wants to partner with you or to help you or to learn more from you, how can they contact you? I see you've already got your email address and phone number on the screen here. Is it okay for people to contact you in those ways?
Oh yeah, I'm a transparent, open book, and I'm just trying to network with anybody and everybody. My 9-year-old, I'll just say this for he's we had a babysitter stay, and my wife and I went out to dinner, and the babysitter says, what's going on here? Because he all he could talk about was real estate. He's 9, because he's interested in it because I'm interested in it, and he listens to me. So he's my sounding board. My wife is too, but my wife kind of glosses over. She's supportive, but I am living and breathing this stuff. But to answer your question, yeah, I'm on Instagram, Jarrod_Oschenbein. It's a doozy of a name. Um, but Trepador64, Trepador 64 is my email address. And I don't even care if you call me 503-819-9768. I'll put my number out there, man. I'll talk to anybody.
Very cool.
About,
And is there any, do you have any final words of advice for people who are thinking about getting started in real estate or even people who have some experience in real estate? What would you tell them?
don't do what I did. I waited, I don't know, what's it been, 23 years, something like that, to get started, right? Like I was looking at this in 2000s and I didn't do it, and I'm kicking myself in the butt. Even with the crash, I still would have done okay. And then after the crash, I didn't do it then either. And then finally, so I'm 49 years old. I look back on what I could have done, and it's better late than never. But I would say, do your research and then at some point just get started. Set yourself a goal, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna get into real, I know they say don't plan on tomorrow, but set some type of goal and then try to hit it. And this comes from the Intel background, the OKRs, the objective key results, and KPIs, or key performance indicators, and that sort of mindset. Like I'm the type of person that even though I know I'm jumping into this, I want to have a goal and work backwards, right? And I already hit my goal for the year. My goal was to get a property before the end of the year, and it sounds like that was a little too light of a goal. So now my new goal is to get
For
another
you,
property by the end of the year. For me, right? Yeah, is to get another property. So I would say, do some research, but just start. Even if it's networking or talking to other people that are doing it, and get some information, and then just go. Just if you're in the analysis paralysis thing, you're never going to do it. So you got to go. I know that this is crazy. I'm not saying quit your job and just dive in. I'm just saying, at least start and network with people and learn what they're doing, and then eventually something will pop up and you'll jump in there, I think.
Those are great suggestions. Thanks again, Jarrod, for being here, and we'll catch you and everyone else who's listening and watching the next time. See you. See you for now.
See you, Sunny. Thanks.